Hey guys, it's Omer from MMOs.com. Another quick weekly news recap of all major MMO news and announcements of the week ending May 11th, 2020. This is episode number 244 of the recap, and the first of news this week comes from ArenaNet regarding Guild Wars 2. They released the official trailer for No Quarter, the third chapter of the latest Living World episode, the Icebrood Saga. Chapter 3 of the Icebrood Saga launched on May 26th and includes a new map, the Drizzlewood Coast, which features a massive map-wide battle featuring fortress sieges and capture points in one gigantic mega event. Also including the update are new Cold War strike missions, an additional essence manipulation mastery tier, 2 new weapon sets, new bear shaman armor, and of course, most importantly, a new emote, a play dead emote. Anyway, this update again launches on May 26th. Next up, Amazon Game Studios is launching their free-to-play battle royale shooter Crucible on May 20th. Crucible builds itself as a PvPvE shooter and will launch with 3 different game modes and will be launching on Steam as well. The first game mode is Heart of the Hive mode, and it features 2 teams of 4 players each racing against each other to kill massive bosses and collect their hearts. Whoever collects more wins, obviously. The second game mode is Alpha Hunters. 8 2-player teams battle in a standard battle royale-like style to be the last team remaining. And the last game mode is a Harvester Command, which is 2 8-player teams fighting each other in a King of the Hill style battle. While the battle royale and King of the Hill style game mode is nothing new, at least the other game mode has players fighting against bosses instead of each other straight up, which kind of makes it a little bit different. While I'd likely give Crucible a try, the visuals look very bland. The game's art style reminds you of some basic Unreal Engine style generic graphics, and it looks kind of like Paragon, and there's no soul to the art style, at least in my eyes. But yeah, the Crucible is launching on May 20th. If you're curious and want to give it a try. Up next, new game announcement. Sega revealed a new Total War inspired free-to-play collectible card game called Total War Elysium. Yes, it's not based on just one Total War game, but rather the franchise as a whole. It'll be featuring generals from across history in a collectible card game format. It'll feature both single-player and multiplayer modes, and several unique features like mid-game deck editing, which at least makes it a bit different than the other card games out there. I do think this announcement is a bit bizarre to come this late into the game, because it feels like the free-to-play card game market is pretty saturated already with some heavy hitters like Hearthstone, Magic Arena, and the recently launched Legends of Runeterra, and now we're getting a Total War card game as well. I mean, with Sega pushing it, it could definitely do okay, but I just don't think there's much room in the market for another big, collectible card game, and I suspect for Total War Elysium to be a success in Sega's eyes, it can't be just a niche game, it's gotta be pretty big, and I'm not sure if it can make it. But then again, mid-game deck editing does sound pretty cool. And unfortunately, no release date on this one just yet. Next up, Albion Online reported a huge spike in player numbers as players have been forced to stay home due to the coronavirus. Sandbox Interactive, the game's developer, announced that Albion Online had a record high of over 500,000 active users for the month of April, with 100,000 daily active logins, with the game averaging over 7,300 players online at any given time on Steam alone, which is a record high for the game. In fact, Albion's player base has been steadily increasing since late 2019, so the game's been making a huge comeback since going free to play. If you never played Albion Online and you kind of like PvP-focused games, or at least a game kind of like RuneScape, at least the skill system, it's worth checking out. In a world of Korean and Chinese WoW clones, Albion is definitely a unique experience. And speaking of games doing well, Activision Blizzard reported their Q1 2020 earnings report this last week, and surprise, surprise, with everyone staying at home, Activision Blizzard and pretty much every game developer out there is having a great quarter. Revenues for the company came in at $1.79 billion for the quarter, and World of Warcraft's player base has increased quarter over quarter, despite doubling in the second half of 2019, thanks to WoW Classic's launch. So WoW's player base literally doubled from the first half of 2019 to the second half of 2019, and then going to the first quarter of 2020, it actually increased from there as well, which is pretty remarkable, as I think everyone expected the player base to kind of dive after the initial hype for Classic right now, but because of the quarantine, people are still playing WoW. Plus, with Shadowlands right around the corner in the second half of 2020, the player base will likely increase when that launches again in the second half. And in the background, you can see some of the slides from their investor presentation. You can see how much money Activision, Blizzard, and King are all making together for the quarter. Speaking of Blizzard, World of Warcraft Shadowlands Alpha Update introduced gamepad support for the first time. Players can type in /console gamepad ID 1 in the chat box and enable gamepad support during the Shadowlands Alpha, and it'll of course make its way to the rest of the game once Shadowlands launches later this year. I expect that World of Warcraft will eventually make its way to consoles, and this might be the first stepping stone to getting there. So perhaps with the next gen console, we might see a World of Warcraft launch on there as well. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a lot of people who probably want to play World of Warcraft but don't have a decent PC. And given just how big WoW is already, there's not many more places to expand, but the console market is relatively untapped. I mean, you have Final Fantasy 14 on there and a bunch of other MMORPGs, but I think WoW would do really well on there. Next up, we have another new game that launched this last week. The multi-platform battle royale Royal Crown launched on both Steam and mobile devices. So yes, you can play both on mobile and PC. Visually, this game looks a lot like Tree of Savior or Ragnarok Online. In fact, it looks way too similar to Tree of Savior to be a coincidence. Royal Crown builds itself as a battle royale game, but features 15 classes based on typical fantasy MMORPG roles. Fantasy battle royale with class-based roles sounds pretty cool, actually. Given that it's available on mobile as well, I expect it's not super complicated, but so far it's doing quite well on Steam, averaging over 2,000 players at any given time since launching, which is definitely not too bad. And yes, it's free to play if you're curious. Up next, Dual Universe Online talks some more of their upcoming new features in their beta, which is set to launch later this year. The sandbox voxel game will be adding offline notifications, talent and barter UIs, a new ship construction elements, a major overhaul of planets, and more. Dual Universe is one of those crowdfunding games that raise millions, but they also raise millions from outside investors as well. So at least some investors at least believe in the game enough to pour their own money into it. Dual Universe focuses on player-created content, where players can literally code in their own content into the game. So kind of think of a game like Second Life, but with more gameplay elements. The game sounds interesting on paper, but as always, I'm skeptical about any of these crowdfunding games until they're playable. But yeah, that's it for MMO News this week. It's been a pretty light week for news, but I'll see you guys next week.